It's what's scary is to think about what's going to come next, because as this system, our current system of government fails, something new is going to replace it, and I think that's the battle that we're seeing play out.
Yeah.
And then there's two paths. We painted the you get these hollowed out institutions that are just there in name, but we are no longer democracy. It's something else, and everybody's a parent. It becomes a totalitarian or authoritarian regime that is just using these institutions to maintain control. But there is really no semblance of democracy left in the West. Or people become aware of this and talk about it like we are, and then we move into some type of new form of government. Like that's my question. But what is the best form of government? I kind of asked this question a while ago, but like what should we have? Because obviously I'm not very enamored with democracy anymore, because it doesn't seem to. Because I was born at the tail end of it. I'm sure if it was. I was born in 1950 or something. Well, I'm just saying, if I was born a long time ago, then.
Okay.
Are you asking me? You don't know when your son was born?
No.
Yeah. So what's the best form of government? Do you think? Like, what should we hope for? What's the best case scenario?
Well, I actually don't have an answer. I don't think there's a simple answer. There isn't one superior form of government. There are every country, every people, every culture is different, and what's appropriate for the Chinese. Again, they have their own history, their own civilization, and a vast number of people, a vast territory. The appropriate form of government for China isn't necessarily the appropriate form of government for, let's say, Georgia. So there isn't a single answer to that. I think there can be a multiplicity of forms of government, and that's part of what BRICS is all about in the multipolar world. It's just there are people that accept that. And, on the Western side, the rules-based international order. They don't accept that. There's just one form of government, and everybody must submit. But it becomes clear that it's not so much a form of government. It's actually an ideology, and a geopolitical orientation. They don't really care, like who won the election. It's just how the election was conducted. It's just that the right people have to win. It's the ones who support Western hegemony and everything that adopt their policies, their, the cultural attitudes and so on and so forth. So that, that's what it's all about. And then on the multipolar side, it just said, okay, no, you figure out what's the best form of government for your own country. And I think, as I said recently, the crux of the matter is really what kind of elite you have in that country. Because in the end, there's always going to be a ruling elite. I think that's always been true. It's been true, even when we had very successful functioning democracies in the West, that these democracies were essentially run by an elite. It used to be the WASPs in the U.S., white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. And, you had similar elites in other Western European countries. And I think, all these elites were, by and large, devoted to the welfare of their own countries. And that's why these systems worked. But now we have elites that are not. They're devoted to this, again, this hegemonic vision, which is not to the benefit of any of the countries. It's not, even though, the U.S. is the global hegemon, this hegemonic vision is really not to the U.S.'s benefit. And we do have people here in the U.S. who are seeing that, including quite a few politicians are saying, hey, what's going on here? Let's end the empire and reestablish the republic, you could say. But yeah, I think I wouldn't point to any single form. Democracy could work. It has worked, again, when you had let's say a sound kind of self-disciplined citizenry and an elite that actually had the interests of the nation at their heart.
Do you think the biggest problem with most Western political systems, we'll take the United States, for example, is that we don't really get to elect our elite? We think we do in the president, but the problem is there's just this massive, surveillance state and security state, military industrial complex that just keeps on chugging along, no matter no matter what democratic process plays out in in the United States. Is that the main problem?
Yeah, and also money. I mean, it's just that we could see that when Biden stepped down. I think it wasn't so much that it wasn't because there was an outcry from the populace. It was basically the mega donor stars signaling that, hey, they're going to withdraw their money from the Democrats if Biden doesn't step down. So then he stepped down. I mean, I think that's really what it comes down to. It's just money talks. So you have, individual votes don't mean anything. So like the individual citizen really can't do anything, but a mega donor can. There's a small class of people at the top who can really call the shots.
So how do you fix that system, Dad?
Do we just do it? I don't.
Do we just
like
let
I
it
said,
keep
I
on?
don't see it in the U.S. I just don't see a solution to it. Again, because you can't just have an inchoate discontent among the people, that's what we have. A lot of people sense that things are wrong, and they have some of them have a general idea of what's wrong, but that doesn't matter. They like the people at the top don't care about that, because what really what decides? Okay, let's say it's the end of the power is not contained in disorganized masses. It's contained in small, cohesive groups, tightly organized political parties, that have an objective and carry it out. So at the top, we have these people, we have this globalist elite, and they are organized and they know what they're about and they have the resources. And then on the other side, we have, maybe the numbers, there are hundreds of millions of people that are not happy about it, but it doesn't matter. I mean, they're just, in the end, just lots of people don't make an army. You could put it that way. So what you need, you do have to have some sort of, organized political force. And I don't see that in the U.S., but I do see it in Europe. There's the potential, because you do see people who clearly, intelligently led political parties that are threatening the establishment there. Now, the question is whether or not the establishment so far they've found ways to keep them out of power. They've played all these kind of games. But I think over time, the strength of those parties are going to grow. So at some point, it's going to be either the establishment is going to have to cede power, or they're just going to have to openly seize it, in a coup of some sort. And we'll see what happens.
Then it's just clear that democracy is not around anymore. Democracy is dead.
I think they want to maintain the appearance, the form of democracy. That's very important to them. But at some point, they might not be able to.
But the more they try to play these shenanigans, mess with the machinations of the democratic process. For example, in France with Marine Le Pen's party, the National Front, it seems like the more they do that, it's clear what they're doing, and then more people become aware of what's going on, and it just further damages the elite, and their party, they're the deep state party essentially. Right, so it seems like it will backfire. I mean, we're probably the same thing with Georgia.
I think there's no question about it. Right, there's a growing awareness of what's going on. There is in this country too. Again, I'll say it just isn't organized. But a poll came out recently that showed that the media, or trust in the media, is at an all-time low. It's actually dropped below the U.S. Congress. Now, I remember, as a kid, these polls would come out every once in a while, and the U.S. Congress was always at the bottom. We'd laugh about it, But now the U.S. Congress is not at the bottom. It's actually the media. This is the first time for it. It's below 20%. It's I believe it is. It's way, way down there. That trust in the media. Now, we're talking about 20% or fewer people actually trust in the media, and that's amazingly low.
Right.
So that's a good sign. I mean, people should not trust in the mainstream media. But what do you do about it? You still have to have some sort of solution. You have to have a party that has an alternative system. planned, and we just don't have that.
Is that the problem because the U.S. has just a two-party system, and the two-party system is just so entrenched into this the mega donor deep state system,
right? Yeah, I think that is the multi-party system. I think allows for opportunities for dissent and for alternatives. So, you can start a party and maybe, you first make that 5% threshold and you can build that party up over time. And then eventually it can threaten the establishment. And that's what's happening, of course, in places like Germany, Austria, France. And, but you can't do that in the U.S. You have two parties and everything is about getting that 51% of the vote. So, You maybe have a base, for example, in the Democratic Party, you do have people that are, fiercely devoted to Palestine and very upset what's going on about Gaza. More power to them. But they, they don't really have anywhere to go because the Republicans aren't going to help them, right? They can't start their own party. So they're just taken for granted by the establishment people in the Democratic Party. They know they don't have anywhere, so they don't give them anything. They just go for that, they try to get that 1% off, chip it away from the conservative side, so-called conservative side, so that they can win the election. So everything is about that, about that mushy middle. That's the logic of these elections. And the end result is that you get, again, two parties that are basically identical. I don't want to say they entirely are. There are, there will be some changes depending on who takes power, but they just won't be significant. They never have been.